I never believed houses could remember people. I used to think memories lived in photographs, in old messages, in the backs of our minds, never in walls. That belief followed me until the winter we moved into that house in the Midwest. By the time I realized how wrong I was, the house had already learned our names. It started quietly. That's the part people never understand. When I tell this story now, they expect screams, shadows, things crawling across ceilings. But what actually happened to us crept in the way mold does, slow, unnoticed, until the damage is already deep. We moved into the house in early March. My husband, Caleb, had grown up in that town. His parents still lived upstairs, same structure, split levels, old American construction from the late 70s. The building looked ordinary enough. Beige siding, narrow windows, a shared staircase at the side, and a basement that smelled faintly of cold cement and dust. We rented the lower unit. 2 bedrooms, 1 bathroom. A kitchen that faced east, catching pale morning light. The kind of place real estate listings describe as quiet and family-friendly. At the time, I was pregnant with our first child. Caleb left for work early every morning, around 6:30 a.m. I'd stay behind, exhausted, nauseous, and alone. His parents were upstairs, but we lived separate lives. Doors closed, sounds muffled. That's when the dreams began. They weren't nightmares, not really. I didn't see monsters or faces. I didn't wake up screaming. Instead, I'd find myself standing in places that felt abandoned. Empty streets under bright daylight. A sun so high it felt wrong. No wind, no birds, no sound except my own breathing. I could never move. My body felt heavy, unresponsive, like my arms and legs were suggestions rather than limbs. Panic would build slowly, like water rising in a locked room. I'd try to call out. Nothing came. And then I'd wake up, heart racing, sheets damp with sweat, morning light exactly where it should be. I told myself it was stress, pregnancy, homesickness, a new country, new routines. I'd experienced sleep paralysis years earlier, and this didn't feel the same. No pressure on my chest, no presence in the room, just wrongness. These dreams came almost every morning between 8 and 9 a.m. after Caleb left and the house went still. For nearly a year. They stopped the day my son was born. That should have been my first warning. We rearranged the bedroom after the baby arrived. The crib wouldn't fit near the window, so Caleb suggested we switch sides of the bed. I agreed without thinking. From that night on, I slept peacefully. Caleb didn't. He started making sounds in his sleep, sharp, startled breaths, sometimes a muffled cry. I'd shake him awake and ask what he saw. "I don't know," he'd say, "just bad dreams." He never described them, not once. What unsettled me was how it followed the side of the bed, as if whatever had been bothering me had simply crossed over. Our son was 6 months old when the first object moved on its own. It was a wind-up toy, cheap plastic, music box inside, shaped like animals sitting in a basket. You turned the key, it played a soft melody, the figures rocked back and forth. One night, long after midnight, it started playing. Not once, not briefly. It played continuously. The melody looped again and again right beside my head on the nightstand. No one had touched it. No vibration, no draft. Caleb woke up before I could even speak. He stood there in silence for several seconds, listening, his jaw clenched. Then he picked it up and took it upstairs. He never brought it back. Things escalated after our son learned to walk. The day he vanished from the house lasted less than 10 minutes, but it shaved years off my life. I thought he'd gone upstairs ahead of me. The door was open, the stairs empty. Panic bloomed when his grandparents said they hadn't seen him. We searched everywhere, closets, bathroom, under beds, cabinets, outside. Nothing. I found him in the basement, behind a metal drum pushed tight into a concrete corner. There was no space behind it, no room for a child to squeeze into, certainly not one barely walking. He was laughing, covered in dust. I don't remember lifting him out. I just remember holding him, shaking, while the basement felt colder than it ever had before. That night, he screamed at something we couldn't see. Not the dark, not a sound. Something above me. I'm not religious. I don't believe in rituals or blessings or spoken protections. But when a child looks past you, through you, and screams like that, you stop arguing with logic. By the time our daughter was born, the house had grown bolder. A crawling teddy bear moved as if pressed by invisible hands. A broken remote-controlled car followed my husband across the room, stopping when he stopped, moving when he moved. And then, November. The night grief came home with me. The night something walked through our kitchen. We moved out not long after. Packed boxes everywhere. That final day, a teddy bear lifted its arm on its own. Both of us saw it. That's when we understood. It was never the toys. It was the house.
I wish I could tell you that after that night, the night my son screamed at something hanging above my head, I finally understood what we were dealing with. But I didn't. Fear doesn't arrive as clarity. It arrives as denial. The next morning, sunlight filled the kitchen like nothing had happened. The coffee maker hummed. The refrigerator clicked on and off. Our son laughed at cereal spilling onto the floor. Life insisted on continuing, and I let it. I told myself children imagine things. I told myself houses make noises. I told myself toys malfunction. I told myself everything except the truth. From that day forward, I made one rule. The basement was off limits. It didn't matter if laundry needed switching or boxes needed organizing. If I couldn't do it while Caleb was home, it didn't get done. My son was never allowed near the basement door, not even to stand at the top of the stairs. And the strange thing? He didn't argue. Children resist rules. They push boundaries. But every time he came near that door, his entire body stiffened. He'd cling to my leg, eyes locked on the darkness beneath the stairs, lips trembling. Once, when he was barely 2, he whispered something that made my stomach drop. "Down there. It waits." I didn't ask him what he meant. Some answers aren't worth hearing. The crawling teddy bear should have been harmless. It was one of those battery-powered toys that moved in short bursts. Crawl, stop, crawl again, activated by pressing buttons sewn into its back. Cheap plastic eyes, fake laughter, bright colors. I placed it in the living room while I put my son to bed. He fell asleep quickly that night. Too quickly. I was walking back through the hallway when I heard the music start. Soft, playful, then movement. The teddy bear crawled forward, stopped, crawled again, paused, then crawled again. Not randomly, not continuously. It moved exactly the way it did when someone pressed the buttons. I stood frozen at the bedroom doorway, calculating. To leave the house, I'd have to pass it. To reach the phone charger, I'd have to pass it. To grab my son and run, I'd have to pass it. I called Caleb. I didn't say I was scared. I didn't say what I saw. I just said, "Come downstairs, now." When the front door opened, the teddy bear went still, as if someone had lifted their finger. We put it in the basement that night. I told myself the problem was solved. Weeks later, we brought up an old remote-controlled car from storage. It hadn't worked in years, rusted contacts, dead wiring. Caleb tried replacing the batteries. Nothing. We laughed it off. That laughter didn't last long. Caleb was walking toward me from the living room, telling me about his day, when I saw the car move. It rolled forward, stopped when he stopped, moved when he moved. I watched it trail him like a dog. He heard it before he saw it. When he turned, the car stopped. When he stepped forward again, it followed. I watched the color drain from his face. That night, he didn't laugh. He carried the car to the basement without a word. Years passed. The activity never stopped, but it softened, almost patient. Things went missing, reappeared days later in obvious places. Doors were found open that we swore we'd closed. Footsteps echoed late at night, but never close enough to pinpoint. And then November came. The call came late, too late. The words didn't register at first. They felt theoretical, like something that happened to other people. I hung up the phone and sat on the edge of the bed, staring at nothing. I didn't cry, not immediately. Grief takes time to understand where to land. That night, I put the kids to bed and lay down beside them. Caleb slept on the couch, giving me space. The kitchen was spotless. I remembered that clearly. Every dish was put away. The sound came anyway. Glass shattering. I dismissed it. Then footsteps. Wood creaking under weight. Slow, deliberate. Moving from the kitchen toward the living room. I turned my head. Caleb was still asleep. The glass on the side table fell next, right beside him. Then the footsteps retreated, back into the kitchen. The house went quiet. Days later, Caleb confirmed he'd heard it too. That's when we stopped pretending. The realization hit me slowly. Every major incident involved the kids. Not harming them, not touching them, just playing. Toys, movement, laughter. As if the house remembered being filled with children once and didn't want to let go. My son avoided the basement entirely. My daughter refused to sleep alone. And then, during packing, it showed itself one last time. A large teddy bear lay on the floor, arms positioned like clock hands. I turned away. When I turned back, its arm had moved. Caleb saw it too. We didn't scream. We didn't run. We just stared. Because by then, we understood something far worse than fear. The house wasn't angry. It wasn't violent. It was lonely. And it didn't want us to leave.
It happened on a Tuesday. Nothing special about Tuesdays. No storms, no power outages, no dramatic buildup. The kind of ordinary night where horror feels out of place. Until it isn't. The kids were asleep. Caleb had gone out for a late shift. The house was quiet in that thick, padded way only suburban homes get after midnight, when even the walls seemed to be listening. I was folding laundry in the living room when I felt it. That pressure. The sense of being observed. Not watched from afar, but noticed. Like the house had suddenly realized I was alone. I froze with a towel in my hands. That's when the sound came. A footstep. Not above me. Not beside me. Behind me. I didn't turn. I couldn't. My brain screamed that if I looked, something would solidify, become real in a way that couldn't be undone. The floorboard creaked again. Closer. Still behind me. I whispered, barely audible, "Caleb?" No answer. The air felt heavier, as if the house itself were leaning inward. Then, silence. I turned. Nothing was there, but the laundry basket had moved, just a few inches, enough to tell me this wasn't imagination, enough to tell me the house had crossed from suggestion into intention. The drawings started appearing after that. Crayon sketches taped to walls, on the fridge, slipped between pages of books. I didn't recognize the style at first. My daughter's drawings were messy, explosions of color and scribbles. These were deliberate, structured. They showed the house, always the house. Windows too dark, basement door shaded thick with black, stick figures standing outside, watching. In every drawing there was one detail that made my chest tighten. No faces, just outlines. When I asked her about them, she shook her head. "I didn't draw those." I believed her. Children lie badly. Fear doesn't. The basement door began to open on its own. Not fully, just enough. A thin crack of darkness spilling into the hallway like a held breath. I closed it every time, locked it once. The lock didn't hold. One night, as I passed the door, I heard something I will never forget. My son's voice, soft, perfectly accurate. "Mom?" I stood there, heart hammering. He was asleep upstairs, I knew that. I still answered. "Yes?" The pause afterward felt deliberate. Then the voice spoke again, still my son, but stretched thin, like a recording slowed just enough to feel wrong. "Come down here." I backed away. Didn't run, didn't scream, just retreated, step by careful step, until my back hit the wall. The basement door closed itself, gently, like a promise. The house didn't escalate in volume. It escalated in precision. It stopped throwing toys, stopped making random noises. Instead, it began recreating moments. I'd find a chair pulled out exactly where my father used to sit when he visited. A mug placed on the counter the way my mother had always done, handle turned inward. These weren't guesses. They were memories. Mine. One afternoon, I found my daughter sitting on the floor, staring at the hallway. "Who are you talking to?" I asked. She didn't turn. "The house," she said. "What does it want?" She hesitated, then whispered, "It misses when it was full." Caleb didn't believe it at first, not fully. He heard the noises, saw the movement. But belief requires confrontation, and the house waited until I was alone to give it. That night, the power went out. Not just our house, the entire block. Darkness swallowed everything beyond the windows. I lit candles, locked doors, checked the kids twice. That's when the smell started. Dust, old wood, basements that hadn't been opened in years. The house felt open, exposed. Then the footsteps began. Not one set, many. Moving above me, below me, around me. I stood in the living room, candle shaking in my hand, as the walls began to speak. Not words, sounds. Laughter, conversations. crying. Every voice I'd ever loved, every voice I'd ever lost. The house wasn't inventing them. It was replaying them like a record, a memory machine. The basement door creaked open, and for the first time, I saw it. Not a figure, not a ghost, but space. An absence shaped like something that had once been alive. The darkness moved, shifted, pressed outward. The house wasn't haunted. It was inhabited. That was the realization that broke me. It never hurt us, never threatened us directly, because it didn't want us gone. It wanted us kept, preserved, recorded, stored inside the walls like echoes. I collapsed onto the couch, sobbing, not from fear, but from grief. Because the house loved us the only way it knew how, by never letting go.
The kids stopped sleeping, not from nightmares, from anticipation. They'd lie awake, eyes open, listening, waiting. One night my son asked me a question I couldn't answer.
Mom, when we leave, will it remember us?
I pulled him close. I wanted to say no, but the truth pressed against my teeth. Yes, I whispered. Caleb finally saw it 2 nights later. Not the movement, not the toys, but the intent. He found our wedding photo missing. Later, he found it in the basement, placed carefully against the wall. Beside it were photos we didn't remember hanging, photos we didn't remember taking. Pictures of us asleep, of the kids playing, of moments we thought were private. That's when he said the words that ended our denial.
It's cataloging us.
It listens, it watches, it learns, and once it knows you, it never forgets. People always ask the wrong question when they hear stories like this. They ask, "How did you get out?" That isn't the question that matters. The real question is, what did it take with you when you left? Because houses like that, places that learn you, never let you go empty-handed. We didn't announce it, didn't say it out loud, but the house knew. It always knew. The moment Caleb and I started packing in silence, the air changed. Not hostile, not angry, just attentive. Boxes stacked themselves deeper than we remembered filling them. Items appeared already packed, childhood things I hadn't touched in years. My old college jacket folded neatly into a box I hadn't opened yet. The house was helping. That terrified me more than resistance would have. At night, the footsteps returned, not pacing, not wandering, but following. Always just behind us, always stopping when we stopped, like it was memorizing how we moved. The kids were asleep earlier than usual, too quiet, too still. I checked on them 3 times before midnight. They breathed evenly, eyes fluttering behind closed lids. The house was silent. That should have warned me. Caleb stood by the front door with the keys in his hand, jacket on, bag slung over his shoulder. "We leave now," he said. "Not tomorrow, not morning. Now." I nodded. We moved quietly, afraid sound might wake something we couldn't put back to sleep. That's when the lights came on. Every single one. The house glowed from the inside like a living thing. The basement door opened fully for the first time, and the sound came, not footsteps, not voices, but something far worse. Memory. The house replayed us. Our laughter from years ago, our arguments, bedtime stories, whispered apologies, the sound of children learning to walk. All of it layered, overlapping, swelling until the walls vibrated.
The house wasn't threatening us. It was begging. The temperature dropped. Not cold, empty. The walls seemed to stretch inward, narrowing the space around us. Furniture shifted just enough to block clear paths. The basement darkness pulsed. And then I understood. The house didn't want all of us. It wanted one, a caretaker, an anchor, someone to remember it back. The realization settled into my bones like ice. Caleb felt it too. His eyes met mine. "No," he whispered. The front door wouldn't open. The windows wouldn't break. We were inside something that had decided it was time to collect payment. The children stirred upstairs. That's when the house crossed the line. My daughter's bedroom door creaked open. Slow, deliberate. The sound of her footsteps echoed on the stairs. She wasn't crying. She wasn't scared. She was calm. Too calm. She walked toward the basement door, eyes unfocused, like she was following instructions only she could hear. I ran, grabbed her. She resisted, not physically but emotionally, like pulling someone away from a place they believed they belonged. "It just wants someone to stay," she said softly. The house tightened around us. That was the moment I made the decision that still wakes me at night. I stepped forward, not toward the basement, toward the center of the house. "I remember you," I said. The words felt heavy. The house responded instantly. The pressure eased, the noise softened. I spoke aloud, naming moments, memories, feelings. I told it about the first winter, the laughter, the grief, the nights we cried inside its walls. I told it everything it already knew, and then I offered it something it didn't expect. I offered my absence. "I will leave," I said, "but I will remember you." The house hesitated. Then it did something that broke my heart. It let go. The front door unlocked. The basement door closed. The lights dimmed. The memories faded into silence. But not before it took something with it. We didn't notice at first. Adrenaline carried us through the drive, through the motel, through the paperwork and the move. Weeks passed, then months. The kids slept again, laughed again. But I noticed something missing, something important. Caleb stopped talking about the house entirely. Not avoiding it, forgetting it. He couldn't remember details, layout, rooms. Even the street name blurred for him. Then I realized the house had taken his memories of it. Not mine. His. I remembered everything. He remembered nothing. That was the price. We live somewhere new now. A different state, different walls, different silence. The kids are older, happier. But sometimes, late at night, I hear the floor settle, and I feel it, that familiar pressure, like something far away still listening. The house doesn't follow. It doesn't need to. It knows I remember it. And sometimes, when I close my eyes, I swear I hear it breathing, content, patient, full. In the final box we unpacked, there was something I didn't recognize. A photograph. Our family standing in the living room of that house, smiling, taken from a corner angle, from somewhere inside the walls. I keep it hidden, because I know now. Houses like that don't haunt you. They keep you forever.